The palace was alive with tension. Ethan had spent days learning the intricate customs and gestures of Virelia, but today would test everything he had absorbed. The rival faction, led by a cunning Virelian named Kalen, planned to challenge his legitimacy before the full court. Ethan's stomach twisted as he prepared. He had no idea what exactly they would do, but he knew it could affect not only him, but also the fragile alliance between humans and Virelia. Lyra entered the room, her presence commanding and serene. She walked beside Ethan, and for a moment he felt a spark of courage. "We face them together," she said quietly. "Remember, your value is not in perfection, but in courage and honesty." Ethan nodded, trying to steady his breath. The council chamber was vast, circular, and filled with hundreds of eyes, some curious, some hostile. Kalen stood across from him, a smirk playing on his features. He was tall and imposing, with sharp features and an air of arrogance. "The human claims to be my queen's consort," Kalen began, his voice echoing. "Yet he knows nothing of our customs. He is unworthy. How can one so ignorant of our ways be accepted as a partner to our queen?" Whispers spread through the council. Ethan felt his palms sweat. He wanted to hide, to shrink, but he remembered Lyra's words, courage and honesty. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I am a human," he said plainly, his voice shaking slightly. "I do not know everything about your customs, but I have learned what I can, and I am willing to learn more. I stand here because I respect your queen, and I want to help protect your people and mine. I may not be perfect, but my intentions are true." There was silence. Even Kalen seemed taken aback by Ethan's straightforwardness. Lyra's eyes glimmered with approval. She raised her hand slightly, signaling the council to listen. "Intentions matter more than perfection," Lyra said, her voice strong and clear. "Ethan has shown willingness to understand and respect our ways. That is more than many claim. If we are to survive together, humans must learn and we must guide them. He is not unworthy." Murmurs of agreement began to rise among some of the council members. Kalen's smirk faltered, replaced by a frown. He stepped forward, attempting another argument, but Ethan surprised himself by speaking again. "I have made mistakes," he admitted. "I will make more, I am sure. But I will not abandon this responsibility. If you doubt me, watch my actions. That is all I can offer." The chamber fell silent, the tension thick. Then slowly one council member nodded, followed by another. Lyra's calm authority, paired with Ethan's honesty, began to turn the tide. Kalen's opposition weakened. Days passed, and Ethan found himself involved in more than just ceremonial appearances. The rival faction had been quietly plotting to undermine Virelia's peace with humans. Through careful observation and discussion with Lyra, Ethan discovered their plan. They intended to sabotage a crucial energy core that powered the city, which would cause chaos and blame humans for the disaster. Ethan's heart pounded. The city could fall into panic and war might break out between humans and Virelia. But he also realized he had something few Virelians had: a different way of thinking. He devised a plan using human reasoning, combined with what he had learned of Virelian technology. He would not act alone. Lyra needed to trust him, and he needed the palace guard's support. They worked together, moving carefully to avoid alerting the rival faction. The night of the attempt arrived. Ethan and Lyra moved through the corridors, quiet and swift. The energy core hummed with bright light as they approached. Kalen's agents were ready, but Ethan's careful observation allowed them to avoid detection until the last moment. A confrontation erupted near the core. Kalen himself appeared, fury in his eyes. "You think a human can outsmart me?" he shouted. "I don't think," Ethan replied steadily. "I know. With Lyra's support, they disabled the sabotage devices." Ethan's knowledge of human engineering and Lyra's understanding of Virelian systems worked perfectly in tandem. Kalen's plan failed. The city's energy core remained stable, and the threat was neutralized. The aftermath was tense. Kalen and his followers were placed under strict observation, their influence diminished. The court recognized Ethan's bravery and intelligence. He had not only defended the city, but also shown that humans could be reliable allies. Lyra approached him later in the quiet of the palace gardens. The glowing plants reflected the city lights, creating a serene atmosphere. "You have done well," she said softly. "You have proven that your people can stand with ours and that courage is not limited to species." Ethan exhaled, relief washing over him. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance," he said. I was just trying to survive, honestly. Lyra smiled, placing her hand on his arm. Survival is not enough. You have created trust, respect, and partnership. That is far greater than survival. In the days that followed, Ethan grew more confident. He learned more about Varelian culture, politics, and technology. He became not just a consort, but a valued advisor and ally. Humans were no longer seen as outsiders. They had a representative who understood them, and who understood Varelia in return. Ethan also grew closer to Lyra. Their bond was built not on chance alone, but on respect and shared experiences. She taught him to see the beauty and logic in Varelian life, while he shared human creativity and problem-solving. Together they navigated court decisions, trade negotiations, and even festivals that stretched over days. One afternoon, as they walked through the floating gardens, Lyra looked at him thoughtfully. "Your people are not like ours," she said. "You do not follow tradition blindly. That can be a strength if used wisely." Ethan smiled. "And your people are amazing. You trust me even when I make mistakes. That's something I've never experienced before." Lyra's gaze softened. "It is because we are learning from each other. That is how we grow." Months passed and the alliance between Earth and Varelia strengthened. Ethan's accidental wedding had started as a misunderstanding, but it became the foundation of a new era. Humans and Varelians worked together on science, exploration, and diplomacy. Ethan's presence bridged gaps that had seemed impossible to cross. Through it all, he never forgot the fear and confusion of that first day. Yet now he also remembered the courage he had found within himself. He realized that life could change in an instant, and that sometimes the greatest adventures came not from planning, but from accident and opportunity. Lyra and Ethan stood on the balcony overlooking the city one evening. The sky shimmered with colors Ethan could barely describe, and the lights of Varelia twinkled like stars on the ground. He felt a sense of peace he had never known. "My world has never been the same," he said quietly, more to himself than to Lyra. "Nor mine," she replied, placing her hand over his. "But together we can shape what comes next." Ethan nodded, a smile spreading across his face. He thought of Earth, of his team, of the mission that had brought him here. What had begun as a simple diplomatic assignment had turned into a life he could never have imagined. He had faced challenges, learned new ways, and grown beyond what he thought possible. And though he had stumbled into the role by accident, he had embraced it fully. He was not just a human in an alien world. He was a bridge, a partner, and a hero in his own right. As the twin moons rose above the city, Ethan looked at Lyra, and then at the horizon, knowing that the future held endless possibilities. His life had changed forever, but in that change, he had found purpose, friendship, and a place among the stars. The accidental marriage had led to an extraordinary life, one of adventure, learning, and interstellar partnership. And Ethan, once an ordinary human, now stood ready to face whatever challenges awaited with. Ethan had never imagined that a routine diplomatic mission would change his life forever. He stood at the edge of the gleaming city of Varelia, staring at towers that seemed to reach the clouds. The sky above shimmered with colors he had no names for, and the streets were filled with beings whose shapes and forms defied human imagination. Yet he had a job to do. He was here as a representative of Earth, and despite his nerves, he tried to appear confident. The aliens were watching him carefully. Their eyes, large and luminous, seemed to see right through him. Ethan reminded himself to breathe. "Just follow the instructions," he muttered under his breath. The ceremony was supposed to be simple. Humans were being honored for their efforts in establishing peaceful contact. Ethan, the least prepared among his team, had been chosen to represent Earth because he was good at talking to people. That was the idea anyway. As the delegation walked toward the grand hall, Ethan's mind raced. He tripped over a smooth stone, nearly falling face first, and caught himself just in time. A ripple of laughter spread through the Varelian audience, not unkind but teasing. He forced a smile, trying to appear calm. Inside the hall, the air was fragrant with a scent that reminded him of sweet flowers and rain at the same time. The floor shimmered underfoot, and above, crystal chandeliers reflected the light and patterns that made Ethan's head spin. At the center of it all sat Queen Lyra, her form elegant and commanding. Her skin was pale with a soft luminescence, and her eyes, violet and deep, locked on Ethan as if she had been expecting him all along. Ethan swallowed hard. "She's beautiful," he thought. But he quickly reminded himself that admiration had no place here. He had to follow the ceremonial script exactly. The chief ceremonial officer, a tall Varelian named Soren, approached him. "Human representative," Soren said in perfect English, though his voice held an odd melody. "Please join us in the ritual." Ethan nodded, but the next moment confusion struck. The ceremony involved gestures he had never seen, moving hands in a pattern that Soren explained only partially. Ethan misread a movement and mirrored it incorrectly. The crowd gasped. Murmurs ran through the hall. Lyra's eyes widened just slightly, then softened. She stepped forward and extended her hand toward him. "Then it is done," she said, her voice calm yet carrying weight that made Ethan's knees shake. Ethan froze. The words hit him like a thunderbolt. Done? He had no idea what had just happened. He looked at Soren, but the officer's face was unreadable. Whispers rippled through the crowd. He tried to speak, but his voice faltered. I didn't mean," Ethan stammered. Lyra inclined her head slightly, a small smile forming. "No harm done," she said, though the confidence in her tone left no room for argument. "It is the custom of my people. You are now my consort." The hall seemed to spin. Ethan's mind raced. "Consort, that's a queen's partner?" He felt his heart pounding. This was not part of any mission briefing. Not even remotely. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. Ethan followed as best he could, trying to mirror Lyra's movements. He felt awkward, clumsy, and utterly out of place. Every step he took, every gesture he made, seemed magnified under the curious eyes of the Varelian court. After the ceremony, Lyra led him through the palace corridors. The walls glowed softly, lighting their path. Ethan tried to keep up, stumbling over words and thoughts alike. "You seem surprised," Lyra said, glancing at him from the corner of her eye. "You could say that," Ethan replied, managing a weak smile. I didn't even know this could happen." "I mean, marriage in one gesture?" Lyra chuckled softly. The sound was like a melody carried by wind. "It is rare," she admitted. "But your people are unfamiliar with our ways. Mistakes are inevitable." Ethan exhaled in relief, but the weight of the situation still pressed on him. "Mistakes. Or destiny," he muttered almost to himself. Lyra stopped and looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps a little of both," she said. In the days that followed, Ethan was thrust into a world he had never imagined. He was shown the palace, introduced to officials and advisors, and taught the complex customs of Virelia. Every day brought new challenges: how to bow correctly, how to speak in the language of gestures, how to respond to courtly debates. Every misstep was noticed, every small success praised. Through it all, Ethan learned that Lyra was not only the queen, but a skilled leader. She balanced wisdom and compassion in every decision. Yet she remained mysterious, revealing little about her thoughts beyond what was necessary for protocol. Ethan felt both admiration and fear in her presence. One evening, Lyra asked him to walk with her in the palace gardens. The gardens floated above the city, filled with plants that glowed softly in the night. Ethan marveled at the beauty, trying to focus on conversation rather than the fact that he had somehow become part of this alien royalty. "Do you enjoy this world, Ethan?" Lyra asked, her eyes reflecting the shimmering plants. "It's amazing," he admitted, "but it's also terrifying. I don't even know how to be a queen's consort." Lyra studied him for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You will learn, and you are not alone. We all had to learn once." Just as Ethan began to feel a small sense of hope, a warning arrived. A message from Soren indicated that a faction within the court questioned Ethan's legitimacy. They planned to challenge him, claiming the ritual was invalid. Ethan's stomach dropped. He had barely adjusted to his new life, and now there was political danger. Lyra, sensing his anxiety, placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was firm and grounding. "Do not fear," she said. "We will face this together. You have already survived the first challenge, and you will survive the next." That night, Ethan lay awake in the guest chambers of the palace, staring at the ceiling. His thoughts raced. He had gone from an ordinary human explorer to the accidental consort of an alien queen in a matter of hours. The stakes were higher than anything he had faced, and the world he had known seemed smaller than ever before. But beneath the fear, a spark of determination grew. Ethan realized that he could not run from this. He could not hide. If he was to survive, if he was to honor this accidental bond, he would need to learn quickly about alien customs, alien politics, and about the Queen herself. And perhaps, just perhaps, he would discover that this unexpected path held more than danger. It held opportunity, adventure, and a chance to prove that even an ordinary human could rise to meet extraordinary circumstances. The next morning, Ethan woke with a new resolve. He would face the court, the challenges, and the unknown future with courage. He would survive the political intrigue of Virelia. He would prove that humans too could stand among the stars, not as conquerors but as equals. As he joined Lyra in the council chambers that day, he felt the weight of his new role pressing on him. But he also felt something else, the first true sense of purpose he had ever known. His world had changed, yes, but perhaps it had changed for the better. And so, the accidental human consort of the alien queen took his first real step into a future that was uncertain, dangerous, and breathtakingly extraordinary. His life, he knew, would never be the same again.